All right, last question.
The morning show's over, but they're still talking.
Does Beth kill Jamie?
It's Liz and Scotty's Poddy.
Your attention, please. This podcast will contain spoilers about Yellowstone. So if you don't want to know them, stop listening. Liz, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right, only one episode remains of Yellowstone. Last night, it was Season 5, Episode 13. The title of the episode was Give the World Away, which I'm not exactly sure what that means, except maybe having to do with what Casey was talking about. An idea of his, of all places, an idea comes from Casey on what to do with the ranch after Beth and all the business brainiac people couldn't come up with anything. Quick little recap of that and a look ahead to the final episode. And let's start there because, Liz, you noticed a little something. We had a Clear 99 listener also notice something just about what they are calling the final episode and what that might mean.
Yeah, they're calling it a season finale versus a series finale. They keep saying this is the end of Yellowstone, so in my opinion, it should be called a series finale, but they said it not once, not twice, I think 3 times at the end, that stay tuned for scenes from the season finale for next episode.
And it was a Clear listener that noticed that too, right?
And they wondered, could there be more? And I'm over here thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Under a different name or different show? I mean, everybody's kind of thought about that. Does he come out with a show for other characters? Do they move on, spin-off wise or something?
And I think we have another listener thinking along those same lines because they said, can we all just admit that we watched Yellowstone for Rip and can we just get a spin-off with him? And I wouldn't be mad about that. I would totally watch a show about Rip and maybe even Beth.
You mentioned a couple of episodes ago that you felt like Beth was setting up a life for them in Texas when they were in that speakeasy. And then last night when she was on the airplane, when she got the call from Jamie with the name on the cell phone, which Liz got a
made me giggle out loud, yes.
But I asked Liz, because I wasn't zoomed in on it, but it almost looked like she was looking at ranches for sale in Texas.
And I didn't even catch that aspect of it.
It may not be exactly what it was, because your first thought was, I was thinking the same thing. She was trying to figure out how to track down Travis when she gets down there. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought it looks like real estate listings. And since you had mentioned her talking about how great would it be if we were down here, that maybe that is something in the future. I have no idea, but for those who want a Rip and Beth series, that could be a way that they're setting that up a little bit.
Yeah.
And of course, Beth was on her way down to Texas to meet with Travis, even though Rip warned her about Travis. There's something about Beth running into somebody who even surprises her.
Yes.
As wild and crazy and untethered as she can be, she seemed a little taken aback by how much Travis, also known as the creator of the series Taylor Sheridan, was in those scenes down in Texas. Those were eye rollers to me a little bit, like, oh, okay, here we go.
And no pun intended, but I feel like Beth was a little buttoned up in those scenes versus what we were seeing with Travis or Taylor Sheridan. In my opinion, with this whole episode, I was a little annoyed because I thought it was a little bit slower than what we needed for, the second to last episode. But if you just separated this episode and put it in, maybe season 4 or season 3, I think I would have really enjoyed it because I loved the interaction that we got to see between Travis and Beth.
Right.
I thought it was really fun to watch.
It was a chance for him to show off.
Yes.
On his horse.
Yes.
Which it's his series. As Liz said, it's his series. He can do whatever he wants to.
Yeah.
But he had to get one more chance in there to show off on his horse. And then to actually bring attention to him showing off on the horse. And he got to take his shirt off, which was pretty impressive, I'll admit. My man is fit, for sure. But yeah, and I was reading another review of it that said something about, Taylor's got to take one more time to make it all about him
in
the series. But you had mentioned, Lioness is another series that Liz and I both like. She is watching the current season. I'm saving it for after football season. But you said he's got a character in that show too, so it's not unusual for him to show up like that.
Yeah, exactly. And he plays the same exact person, just in a different setting. So be warned that you will see Taylor Sheridan without his shirt a lot if you want to watch season 2 of Lioness.
So anyway, Beth goes down there. They take care of business. He's going to help them sell some horses. They got to come back up and do the big thing at the ranch, the big sale at the ranch, and Travis helps with that. And there were a lot of things going on there, including you were very touched by the scene. There's the singing of the national anthem, and then they let out the 2 empty horses in honor of John Dutton and of Colby, too.
Mm-hmm. And I loved that scene. I obviously have never really been a part of like a ranch life, so I don't know how they honor people, but I thought that was absolutely beautiful, very touching, very sad. I was crying throughout that scene, and especially just watching Teeter and how painful it was for her bringing out Colby's horse. I thought they did a really good job on that.
Then something else I thought was interesting was Teeter taking it very hard, obviously, and she walks to the barn, and there's this visually beautiful shot of her in the barn kind of going to her knees and crying because of Colby, and I thought, okay, that's beautiful. But then they bring Rip in to see that, and that I found curious because it would have been a beautiful scene on its own with just Teeter. You could see her, again, the way they shot it to where you could just see the shadow of her. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why did Rip need to see that? And at this point in the series, everything that happens, you're like, okay, what does that mean? What does that mean? I'm sure overthinking everything in the episode, but as we think about things about, well, what's coming, because Rip is having to tell all the other cowboys to go find other work, except for Lloyd. Lloyd can stay. So you're thinking about the future, and just the way that Rip noticed that, he didn't go to be with her or anything, but I'm like, okay, that must mean something, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't, but that's the way we overthink it here with one episode left to go.
Again, I didn't think anything of it, but I kind of like your perspective. I would love to see Teeter stay on the ranch because I think that is her home, and I think her and Rip and Lloyd, they get along great together, and that would be a pretty good trio right there.
Or if Beth and Rip end up going to Texas, do they take Teeter with them, or something like that? Which, by the way, Ryan, who Rip put in charge down in Texas, did you notice that Ryan is starting to dress like Rip and trying to look like Rip?
Again, I didn't notice it until you said something, and then it just clicked in my head, and I was like, yes, you're so right.
Also, kind of throughout those scenes, we're seeing a lot the last couple of episodes, but there were several examples yesterday of the softer side of Beth. Beth being kind of the matriarch of the family. And I didn't really think about it until Liz and I were talking this morning. And I guess this is part of just her maturation and growing up. John is gone, and so she has to kind of take that role a little bit. So you see several scenes, her and Teeter, her taking care of Teeter, even though they do it in Beth's way, where they go to the bar and she eviscerates a tourist. But also the way that she was with Linnell, when she invited Linnell to the funeral. I thought that was very sweet, because there had been some times where Beth and Linnell butted heads. It wasn't ever a huge conflict, but Linnell was sleeping with her daddy, and it's not her mama. So there was always a little bit of that going on. But the way that she invited her and said, it's going to be nobody but family, but if you want to come, we'd love to have you. Thought that was really sweet.
Yeah, I thought that was beautifully done. I think Beth just was the shining star in this entire episode. And going back to the scene with Teeter, I thought that was brilliant. It was a perfect blend of what we've known and grown to love with Beth, because you got to see that nurturing side of her, but you also got to see that side where it's like, I know exactly what you need, Teeter, and it's to go to this bar to just have some fun with some tourists. And that's exactly what they did. And I loved Beth in this episode.
Yeah, and that scene with Carter, too, where she was kind of a mothering type,
She even kissed him on the cheek, which kind of surprised me.
Yeah. And that's, I guess, where I got to thinking, okay, she's having to step into that role because she knows she needs to, and there's nothing else going on. And I would have loved her character a lot more if there was some of that balanced with the,
I get it,
you're the trailer park, I'm the tornado. I like that side of Beth, but it was just over and over and over and over again. If there would have been more of a mixture, I think I would like her a little bit more. But I'm with you. She was the star of the episode last night for sure. And then Casey gets involved as well. And we're still, I think, kind of dealing with Casey's vision and his decision on what he needs to do. And last week it was he needed to make his family safe, which is why he went to the Hitman Company, as we call them. Hitmen are us. Yes. And tried to straighten out things with them. But then you also see him working on this other plan that by the end of it, he explains it to Beth. So all of a sudden, the thing that is going to save the ranch comes from Casey and not from Beth or anybody else with an MBA in business. Mm-hmm. Beth realizes it. Another great scene where she runs after the truck, jumps in, and gives him a kiss, too.
Yeah. I was getting slightly annoyed with Casey in the past couple of episodes, to be quite honest with you, because he's been very vague about, like, what he's dealing with in his mind. And I'm like, just say it out loud. Come on, Casey. Just like 1 step, 2 step, 3 step. Just describe what you're going through. And we saw that a little bit in this episode, but finally we were starting to see like what he's thinking and what he's processing. But I was just like, come on, Casey, explain it. Let's not just be the Indian and I have had this vision together kind of thing.
And I think the breadcrumbs are leading to the point that they're going to sell the Yellowstone to Chief Rainwater for $1 or whatever it is. All of that kind of makes sense. They can keep it together that way, sell it to him for a little bit of money. His family can keep that plot of land like he and Tate were talking about when they were like, well, why can't we just manage this? So unless there is something really crazy that happens in the next episode, that seems like that's kind of set. That's what it's going to have. We've been waiting for Chief Rainwater to get involved more.
Yeah.
He was in the very beginning of yesterday's episode, but it didn't really turn into anything. So it looks like maybe, and Casey was on his way to talk to somebody. So I have a feeling that might be pretty quick in the last episode next week that he's pulling up to Rainwater and figure out how to give the land back to that tribe, because it's the only way they're going to keep it together. All right, and the other big question for next week is what's going to happen to Jamie? And we saw a little bit of hapless Jamie, as I wrote it down, which drives me crazy. Yes. On one hand, he's supposed to be this brilliant litigator and attorney general, and then you see him and he can't tie his shoe, it seems like. But he goes to see his ex-girlfriend, who was a political animal, and to get some advice, and all of a sudden she gives him, as Liz said, what seems like some pretty basic, normal advice.
Some pretty obvious stuff that I feel like Jamie could have come up with by himself.
Yeah.
And I totally forgot about her character. I totally forgot that they had a son together. So I was sitting there confused for a good half portion of that scene, just thinking, who is she? Is she Sarah's sister? Like, what is happening? And then it finally clicks. But yeah, I thought that scene was unnecessary, to say the least, because Jamie just looked so dumb throughout the entire thing. At the end, he has that sly little smile about him, and that power comes back, and he's like, okay, I know.
All of a sudden, he's smart Jamie again.
Yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, you could have come up with that easily by yourself, sir.
And I thought maybe this was a way for them to put his son back into the story somehow, but they really didn't touch on it except for her just saying, hey, we share a kid together. That's the only reason I'm talking to you. So it doesn't look like he will be a part of that.
Yeah, it just seemed like a far-fetched excuse to have that storyline back in the show for one final time.
Right. Well, I think that's the question for next episode, is what's going to happen to Jamie, because Beth did make mention again on her phone call with him on the plane. Just remember what I said. I keep my promises. And she had said that her face will be the last one that Jamie sees. So I still don't see her putting him down.
No, me neither.
With a gun, but who knows? Maybe it's him going to jail, and it's Beth says the last face he sees, or something.
And again, there have been no advancements in their relationship, one way or the other, good or bad. And that's what I think I'm getting a little frustrated with, is I feel like we're delving into a lot of different storylines where that's the one major storyline that we're not getting a lot of movement in, and that's where I want to see a lot of movement. So,
and maybe saving that may be all the next episode.
Yeah, it's going to have to be.
It would make sense,
right?
Yeah. And no mention of it being like a 2-hour season finale either, which I kind of expected. That doesn't mean it won't be, but at least that's not the way they're promoting it to this point.
And I dove in deep too. I scoured the internet to see if I could find any kind of length time on this episode, and there was nothing. So I'll be anxious to see. Again, I cannot imagine it only being an hour long. It has to be an hour and a half, 2 hour long episode. But that's just my opinion.
All right. Last question. Does Beth kill Jamie?
I don't think so. I think I would be a little sad if that happened, to be quite honest with you. However, we are seeing scenes of Rip lighting a car on fire. So whose car is that? Where are they? Right. Why is Rip lighting this car on fire? So I'm not quite sure. I don't know how I want the Jamie storyline to end, to be quite honest with you, because I don't foresee it having a happy ending.
No,
so. I
don't either at this point. That's kind of what I was hoping for, was some sort of family reunion type thing, but I don't see it happening. I am one who feels like Jamie, I feel like he's gotten a raw end of the deal in this a lot of times, because most of the time when he was going against John Dutton, it was not for his own purposes. And that's what Beth always focused on, that he was doing it for himself. And I just never saw it that way. And I always felt like it was just Beth from their history and their past and the baby and the clinic and all of that. I just really felt like that while not always doing the right thing, him getting a raw deal a lot of times. And so that's why I always thought maybe at the end it comes back around. But I don't know. There's going to have to be some huge twist for that to happen with one more episode.
And like you said, I feel like their relationship was permanently fractured because of a decision that Jamie made when he was super young. Yeah. And he thought he was making the right decision at the time. He wasn't doing it out of malicious intent or out of being evil. It was just him trying to take care of his sister. And Beth has never forgiven him for that. And she's kind of let her emotions spiral. And so, I'm with you. I feel like Jamie kind of gets the short end of the stick.
Well, maybe this new matriarchal Beth, maybe there's some sort of twist at the end of that, which I don't expect them to live together happily ever after, but maybe that role that she's really taken on the last couple of episodes, that softer side of Beth, maybe that plays into this somehow. I don't know.
I don't know if that twist is coming, but we'll see.
I would not put money down on that, but I just wonder, since all we can do is guess between now and next week. We appreciate you taking time to find Liz and Scotty's Poddy. Wherever you get your other podcasts, just search for Clear 99 on demand and subscribe that way, and you can get Liz and Scotty's Poddy, both these Yellowstone ones, other ones that we do from time to time, and the morning sips as well.
Our Clear 99 app is super simple to use, easy, free to download. Or if you just want to do it old school and listen at clear99.com, our podcasts are posted there as well.
So this is probably the most pretentious thing you will hear all day, but I made a bolognese sauce last night.
Hey.
Now, I say I made a bolognese sauce. In my mind, it comes out, I made a bolognese sauce last night. I had one of those moments in the kitchen that was so much fun, where I just stood at the stove and just sat there and added a little bit of this, added a little bit of that. You know what? Let's try a little bit of this. But by the end of it, it was so good. And now I want Liz to try some just to see if I'm crazy. Now, that being said, Liz is going to be no help. Because Liz is going to tell me she likes it whether she does or not.
1,000%.